It was a cold, rainy evening in the small town of Willowbrook. The streets were empty, and the only light came from the flickering lanterns outside the old Victorian houses. In the heart of the town stood a quaint little restaurant called the Silver Spoon. It was known for its delicious food and cozy atmosphere. But tonight, it would become the center of a mystery that no one could have anticipated. Detective Arthur Lane sat at his usual corner table, sipping a cup of steaming black coffee. He was a tall, lean man with sharp blue eyes and a mind that could solve even the most complicated puzzles. The restaurant was unusually quiet, with only a handful of customers scattered around the room. Among them was Mrs. Clara Whitmore, a wealthy widow known for her love of fine dining, and Mr. Harold Grimes, a grumpy businessman who always seemed to be in a hurry. The waiter, a young man named Tom, approached Detective Lane with a menu. "Good evening, sir. Would you like to try our special tonight? It's a rare dish prepared by our new chef, Monsieur Pierre." Detective Lane raised an eyebrow. "A new chef, you say? I didn't know the Silver Spoon had changed hands." Tom nodded. "Oh yes, yes. Monsieur Pierre arrived just last week. He's quite the talent, but a bit mysterious." Intrigued, Detective Lane ordered the special. As he waited, he noticed Mrs. Whitmore and Mr. Grimes also ordering the same dish. The atmosphere in the room grew tense, as if everyone was holding their breath. When the food arrived, it looked exquisite, a perfectly cooked steak with a rich, dark sauce. But as Detective Lane took his first bite, he noticed something strange. The flavor was unusual, almost medicinal. He paused and glanced around the room. Mrs. Whitmore was eating eagerly, but Mr. Grimes had barely touched his plate. Suddenly, Mrs. Whitmore gasped and clutched her throat. Her face turned pale, and she slumped forward onto the table. The room erupted into chaos. Detective Lane rushed to her side, but it was too late. Mrs. Whitmore was dead. The police were called, and the restaurant was sealed off. Detective Lane took charge of the investigation. He questioned Tom, the waiter, who was visibly shaken. I don't understand. The food was prepared just like any other dish. I swear, I had no idea." Next, Detective Lane spoke to Monsieur Pierre, the new chef. He was a short, stout man with a thick French accent and a nervous demeanor. "I am innocent, monsieur. I would never harm anyone. My food is my art." Detective Lane wasn't convinced. He examined the kitchen and found a small vial hidden in the spice cabinet. It contained a strange, odorless liquid. He also discovered that Mr. Grimes had left the restaurant in a hurry shortly after the incident. The detective's sharp mind began to piece together the clues. He realized that the vial contained a rare poison, one that could easily be mixed into food without detection. But who had the motive to kill Mrs. Whitmore? Detective Lane dug deeper into the lives of the restaurant's patrons. He learned that Mrs. Whitmore had recently inherited a large fortune from her late husband, and Mr. Grimes had been trying to convince her to invest in his failing business. When she refused, he became desperate. Confronting Mr. Grimes at his office, Detective Lane presented the evidence. "You poisoned Mrs. Whitmore's food, hoping her death would delay the repayment of your debts. But you didn't count on me being there that night." Mr. Grimes broke down and confessed. "I didn't mean to kill her. I just wanted to make her sick so she wouldn't ruin me. But the poison was too strong." With the case solved, Detective Lane returned to the Silver Spoon. The restaurant had lost its charm, but the mystery had been unraveled. As he sat at his corner table, he couldn't help but wonder how many other secrets were hidden behind the menu. And so, the tale of the mystery in the menu became another story in Detective Arthur Lane's long career. A reminder that even the most ordinary places can hold the darkest secrets,